Hi, my name is James Gurney. We've all been taught since grade school that primary colors are these: yellow, red, and blue. They're called primary because all other colors, including the secondaries, orange, violet, and green, are mixed from the primaries. But what if we get rid of the primaries and use just secondaries as our source colors? Can we do a painting from those secondaries? Stay tuned, we'll find out. So I want to paint something using this unusual palette of secondaries as primaries in order to push myself into different ranges. A tub of water hangs from my homemade easel. I got a watercolor book, brushes, a watch, palette, and paints. Now I put a lot of paints out, but I'm just going to choose 3 of them. Cerulean blue deep, azo yellow, naphthol red, a scarlet pyrrole, anthraquinone blue, yellow ochre, and I could use any of these, but for some reason I'm attracted to these. Gamboge, which is a yellow orange, dioxazine purple, and permanent green light. No blue, no red. This should be weird. Let's see what happens. Now I want to get the drawing close to right, so I start with my water-soluble colored pencil. And I'll put the titanium white out there first, even though I may not use it for a while into the picture. The gamboge, dioxazine purple, and permanent green light. Let's do a triad test just to see what we're dealing with. What's the range of colors we'll have with this triad? There's the gamboge, the yellow-orange, and you have the permanent green light and the dioxazine violet in their pure form on the left, and in their tinted form on the right. And this creates a series of pure colors and tints which are very unfamiliar. It makes me feel like I'm on my first day of school and I have to make new friends. If you look at the gamut map, what we're losing are the reds. We can't mix those reds, so everything inside that triangle will be what we can mix. This house is not lived in. You can tell from the dumpster. They're dumping stuff into it. Maybe they're cleaning out the house. Now, if I just use straight water over that colored pencil, it'll dissolve and give me a little bit of yellow-orange color around the lines, kind of soften it up a little bit. And how about a yellow color underneath the trees? And then mixed with the purple, it'll become kind of a gray. And then just indicating some of the green colors to suggest the foliage. I'm freely combining the 3 primary colors in this wet into wet first pass and focusing on the areas that are dark. There's a nice dark shadow on that left-hand side, the foreshortened side of the house. I don't want to go all the way to black here, even though with that violet and green I can get close to black. I just want it to be a dark gray with some interesting character to it. You notice I'm not touching the white yet. And then the trees make a darker value behind the house. Whenever I paint an unoccupied house, I always wonder, what's the story here? Who lived here? And the weirdest thing happens. A car pulls up with a couple of guys who say they're brothers who lived here when they were boys. He says his oldest brother sold off the house without him knowing it, so he wants to take one last look.
I hope some nice people are going to take care of it, you know? I'll give this to Charlie. Can he? This house has so many memories. We used to have the garden here with the tomatoes. My dad, he's gone since 1992. But we had the garden with the tomatoes. Delicious tomatoes. You can't find them anymore, even in the organic place. Big plump tomatoes, healthy ground. We just came up to see the house that we used to have. That my oldest brother sold that we didn't know about.
And then say more about what it means to you and
well, we've been coming here since we were kids. We love the place up here. We love the town. We love the mayor, Joel.
Oh yeah,
He's a really real gentleman. Have a party each year over here for Charlie. His Cadillac is over there. It's not on the property. We're not allowed. So Charlie Rockstock each year. We have a party, and I'm heartbroken because, Charlie's party. I feel bad for Charlie.
How old were you when you started here?
I was about 9 or 10. We came here in 1966. And I'm just one of 8 kids, 7 boys and 1 girl. My brother Frank has gone up to the Lord Jesus. And we just come and have fun.
Yeah.
It's about fun.
And no plumbing in the house?
When we came here, there was really no plumbing. My dad had friends, uncles, and us. We helped, trying to be handy, connected. We put the shower upstairs, up in the top. We had a lot of water pressure from the old tower. I think that the old tower this is a replacement tower or rebuilt. But the old tower, there was so much water pressure that when you would put the kitchen faucet on, the faucet would go up in the air from the pressure, and the water would come out so high. And it had like a foul odor, like a well. And we would come here and we just had memories. We just, there's 3 trees planted in the yard. I was down in Red Hook driving, and I saw someone selling on the side of the road, a couple of trees, 3 trees. So I picked them up and brought them up to our dad. We put them, he said, let's plant them over here. So those big trees, not this tree here with not this elm, not this Christmas type tree, but the other ones we put in the ground when they were only so small. That was over 30 years ago. And he wanted to plant one out in the middle over there, and I said, Dad, we play ball over here. We hit the ball out, so can we move it over? So that's why that tree is over to the left a little. And we had a berry tree there. And on this corner, the town came and did a beautiful job. They put the sidewalk around, and they did a really beautiful job because the people coming to and from the park come this way, and somebody did a beautiful job. And it's just that we come each year, and less over time, but a couple of brothers like to spend time here. And my sister, she grew up here with her friends. And the Blum family around the corner, friends, and the Kellys were our cousins down the block. So it's a lot of nice memories, Jim.
Every board and every window seems to have more significance after Jimmy tells me about growing up in that house. To mix a blue or bluish white color, I can use that dioxazine violet, maybe with a little bit of green, to get it toward blue for the sky holes in the tree here, or for the shadows under the eaves. I like the feeling of unfamiliarity that this gamut gives me, like trying on a new pair of shoes. It pushes against my feet in different ways. And this gets me out of the color ranges I'm more accustomed to working with, the blues and reds and browns. Now it's a race to the finish while the light changes. Emily Dickinson wrote a poem about the feeling of returning to the house you once lived in many years before. Years I had been from home, and now before the door I dared not open, lest a face I never saw before stare vacant into mine and ask my business there. My business? Just a life I left, was such still dwelling there? I fumbled at my nerve. I scanned the windows near. The silence like an ocean rolled and broke against my ear. I laughed a wooden laugh that I could fear adore, who danger and the dead had faced, but never quaked before. I fitted to the latch my hand with trembling care, lest back the awful door should spring and leave me standing there. I moved my fingers off as cautiously as glass, and held my ears, and like a thief fled gasping from the house. Jimmy and his brother headed back to the city, and as I looked into the face of this old house, I could hear it calling back to me with its own voices.
This house has so many memories.
Maybe the house remembered too. The laughter, the tears, the barbecues, the baseball games, and the lives that it sheltered from storms. Now that last painting raises the important question, can you paint a painting using secondaries as primaries? So using green and violet and orange. Let's try it and find out. Okay, it's time to paint the Hudson River. So what does it mean to use secondaries as primaries? That means using orange and violet and green as my primaries, and I'll get my yellow, red, and blue as secondary colors. For a gray scene like this, that should be okay. But if I need color accents, I'll have my brightest accents in the orange, green, and violet, and then I'll have weaker accents in the secondaries, the yellow, red, and blue. Let's do a triad test on this because it's really different from what we're used to seeing. Again, the primaries are a yellow-green, an orange, and a violet. So yellow is a mixture of green and orange, red is a mixture of orange and violet, and blue is a mixture of green and violet. The yellow will look like a dark yellow, like raw sienna or yellow ochre. That's cadmium orange, permanent green pale, and dioxazine violet. So to mix a yellow out of this, you mix these two together. This dull kind of yellow color under the sky will hopefully set off the blues in the sky. But to get blue, I have to mix violet and green. Let's put a little more white and a little more violet in there. Try to get something like a blue for the water. And then up here would be the horizon line and the far shore. Let's get the sky in. Little green, little violet. Now it looks a bit more blue. A thin line for the far shore. I'm aware of the tendency to make the far shore or any elements that are far away bigger than they really appear. When there's anything near the horizon, any thin lines of far away elements, the tendency is to stretch them out vertically more than they really should be. So I'm consciously making them as narrow as they appear. And then using the side of this brush with kind of a middle gray paint to indicate the wavelets of the far waves on the far side of the Hudson. The Hudson River is about a mile wide at this point, and we're looking north toward the Catskill Mountains. Where the wind blows on the water, it's a darker color. And then you've got all the wavelets of the waves coming on shore, and those I can indicate with the tip of this filbert brush. This is a synthetic filbert. There's no problem getting greens with this palette because I have a nice strong yellow green. I can use a darker green first for the silhouette value. Just putting in random blobs first, and then I'll shape it into the pointed tips of these leaves. Where the light shines through the leaves, it's that yellow-green color. And the way I painted the sky, I left a few little sparks of that yellowish color in the first painting, showing through those blue-grays. And I suppose there's also a tendency to make leaves bigger than they appear. And now the rocks near the shore are fairly angular, and they're quite dark when they're just out of the water, but also wet. I dry brush on this watercolor paper to get the texture of the pebbles. And then using a round synthetic brush, I can put in just tiny dots for the faraway lighthouse and some of the houses. So as you can see, you don't have to use primaries to paint a picture. You can use secondaries as primaries, or you can really use any three colors and make a triad. That's the subject of my new art tutorial called Triads. This has been a sample of it, and I go into much more detail about various combinations of colors that you can use to paint various kinds of pictures. You can do bright colored scenes like this still life, or you can paint grayed down color schemes using bright colors to start with. Because making grays is a key part of any painter's vocabulary. And that's why I have 8 different ways of making gray. We're going to learn not only how to paint on location, but also studio exercises that you can do at home to practice using colors in various combinations. Using triads is a really great way to get used to using various pigments that you may not be familiar with, and to really understand how they work together in combination. So check out my new video. There's a link in the description below this video to the Gumroad video so you can download your copy. There's also a Facebook group called Color and Practice where people are sharing their experiments both in the field and in the studio based on these tutorials. Okay, thanks for watching. You might want to check out my website or subscribe to my channel. And then here's a playlist with more good stuff and a video that continues the story. So check them out and share with your friends.